My wife has a best male friend. They're so close they sleep in the same bed, and even drink from the same bottle of water. I asked them to keep some distance, but my wife scolded me, saying I was petty and not acting like a real man. She even said, if anything were going to happen between us, it would have happened long ago. There wouldn't even be a you in the picture. Fair enough. So I turned around and found myself a female bro. Chapter 1. When Willow once again didn't come home for the night with Makoto. My reaction was calm. She came back at noon, her complexion rosy, and, rare for her, took the initiative to explain. It's been a long time since we got together like that. I drank too much and just found a hotel to sleep in. But this time it wasn't the same bed. He took the floor on his own. Willow emphasized that point. After all, the last time this happened, we had almost come to blows. I had angrily scolded her for having no sense of boundaries as a married woman and tried to drag her to confront Makoto face to face. Makoto was someone who had grown up with Willow in the same residential compound. How should I put it? His personality leaned strongly feminine. He was also very close with a lot of girls. At one point, I genuinely thought he wasn't into women. More than once, I'd seen Makoto argue with those girls over a piece of clothing or some makeup. They would laugh and roughhouse, even sharing the same cup without the slightest hesitation. Even so, it still bothered me deeply. At first, Willow was willing to explain. Later, she got annoyed and simply threw out, if anything were ever going to happen between us, it would have happened long ago. It wouldn't have been your turn to marry me, before slamming the door and leaving. What was ridiculous was that even Willow's friends joked about it. We all grew up together. Makoto's just like that. Instead of worrying about him stealing your girlfriend, you'd better worry about him setting his sights on you. I was speechless. No matter what they said, I just couldn't get past it. I even made it clear that if she didn't know how to keep appropriate distance, we'd get a divorce. After that, Willow did keep her distance from Makoto for a while, but the result was that Makoto would make passive-aggressive remarks about me in public. He would say, "George, look, I'm not even sitting next to Willow this time. I've behaved myself. Please spare me. Willow isn't the same Willow anymore. Some people are really territorial. I wouldn't dare get close." He always said these things when I was present. Naturally, it created an awkward atmosphere. Over time, everyone came to see me as narrow-minded and petty. My relationship with Willow also began to grow distant and cold from that point on. Snapping back to the present, I looked at Willow's striking features. She had once been the goddess who haunted my thoughts day and night. Now, I felt a kind of aesthetic fatigue. Noticing my indifference, Willow took off her coat, walked over, and slipped into my arms. In a soft, almost coquettish tone, she said, "Hubby, didn't you say last week you'd take me to see the new movie? Why don't we go today?" Okay. That was a film I had really wanted to watch with her. As soon as it premiered, I asked Willow out. She said she was going shopping with her friends. The next day, I saw Makoto post about going to the movies. 2 tickets. No faces were shown, but in the photo there was a slender hand with long fingers wearing Willow's wedding ring on the ring finger. I caught a faint trace of cigarette smoke on Willow. Expressionless, I pushed her away and shrugged. Forget it. I continued packing my luggage. "George." Willow looked displeased. Seeing what I was doing, she reached out and grabbed my arm. "What are you doing? Every time you refuse to communicate and just walk away, you only know how to give me the cold shoulder. I've already told you, there's nothing between Makoto and me. I've always treated him like a woman." "I know." Calmly, I pulled my hand back. "You're just pure friends." It seemed my words choked her. Willow's expression grew uneasy. She let go of my arm and frowned. "Then what are you doing?" "I'm going on a business trip," I explained. Her face darkened even more. She stared at me for a long time, as if trying to detect some trace of pretense on my face, but there was nothing. My reaction remained calm, because I no longer cared who she went to see a movie with, who she spent the night out with, who she went on dates with, whatever. It didn't matter anymore. Chapter 2. Seeing that I wasn't angry, Willow became even angrier. She seemed convinced I was just pretending, determined to make it up to me on her own terms. She grabbed my phone and tried to book movie tickets. I watched as she frantically searched through the app. Finally, I sighed and reminded her, "That movie's already been taken out of theaters." Her fingers froze on the screen. In that instant, I saw several different emotions flash across her face. The air filled with silent tension. The food on the table slowly grew cold. I bent down, packed the last item into my suitcase, and closed it. After that day, Willow suddenly became unusually attentive toward me. During the few days of my business trip, she sent voice messages every morning and night on schedule, and kept asking about my return time. She said she would come pick me up at the airport. I told her when I would arrive. However, on the day I returned, as I walked out of the airport, I saw Makoto. He was leaning against a car, chatting and laughing with my wife. When he saw me, Makoto enthusiastically walked over to take my suitcase. "Willow, clearly still immersed in the playful mood from her banter with Makoto, smiled brightly at me and said, "Hubby, it was impossible to get a ride today. Makoto even took a day off to come pick you up." Makoto put the suitcase in the trunk and said in a familiar tone, "Willow, what are you saying? I just happen to have a car, and it's on the way. No big deal. Come on, get in." The next second, before I could even react, Willow naturally got into the front passenger seat. To be honest, in the beginning, I had never thought about who should sit in the passenger seat. It was Willow who told me after we got together that the front passenger seat could only be for a girlfriend or a wife. When I asked her why, she said, "If you let another woman sit in your passenger seat, wouldn't you end up looking at her legs? Wouldn't you smell her perfume?" To assert her claim, she had even stuck a label on the dashboard, "Reserved for wife." How ridiculous. So was Makoto blind and unable to see her legs? Or had he lost his sense of smell and couldn't catch her perfume? Makoto was actually the first to sense something off. In an awkward tone, he said, "Willow, isn't it inappropriate for you to sit in the passenger seat?" But Willow acted as if she hadn't heard him and continued talking to herself. "We really have to thank Makoto today. Otherwise I wouldn't have known what to do. Hubby, if you don't believe me, we have chat records in our group." That group was the childhood friends group from their old residential compound. "I wasn't in it," Makoto replied. "I couldn't just leave you stranded, could I? Besides, if you complain to my godfather and godmother, I'm dead." As he spoke, he lifted his hand as if to pinch Willow's cheek. Halfway through, as if remembering something, he withdrew it and gave me a lingering, slightly uneasy smile. "George, I'm just used to this. I don't mean anything by it." Ever since that huge fight between Willow and me, Makoto had gone from openly touching her without restraint to pretending to be cautious while still making physical gestures, as if everything was my fault, as if my narrow-mindedness had forced him to deliberately keep his distance from Willow. But if Makoto truly wanted to keep his distance, why did he still ask Willow out to dinner afterward? Why did she still spend nights out with him? More than that, I could clearly sense a faint trace of provocation in his eyes. If this had happened before, I definitely wouldn't have been able to hold myself back. But now, I couldn't be bothered. When Makoto once again reminded Willow about the seat, I simply waved my hand, opened the rear door, and said, "Doesn't matter. I have a friend coming along anyway. She's heading the same direction. I'll sit in the back with her." "A friend? Where?" Before Willow could finish her surprised question, someone called my name. When I turned around, Willow's expression immediately changed. A stunning woman with a graceful figure and delicate features came hurrying over, dragging a suitcase behind her. As soon as she stopped in front of me, she complained, "George, you're unbelievable. I just grabbed my luggage and you disappeared in the blink of an eye." She lifted her hand and lightly punched my chest, pouting, "I don't know anyone here. You have to take responsibility for me, you know." I coaxed her gently, I know. Chapter 3. That scene left both Willow and Makoto stunned. Very quickly, Willow recovered. With a look of shock, she said, "This is the friend you were talking about?" There was obvious displeasure in her voice. She stared at the woman in front of her, her brows furrowed so tightly they could have crushed a mosquito. The woman responded breezily, "Yep, I'm George's best bro, Anna." Anna acted completely at ease. She tossed her suitcase to Makoto, then plopped herself into the back seat and waved at me excitedly. "George, hurry up and get in." I was about to step into the car when Willow stopped me. "George, is it appropriate for you to sit with another woman?" She glared at me, and I could practically feel the anger in her eyes trying to burn through me. I smiled instead. "We're just good friends. I've always treated her like one of the guys." Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at Makoto in the driver's seat. For a moment, Willow was speechless. Anna chatted with me the entire ride. It made the front seats feel unusually quiet. It wasn't that Makoto wasn't talking. He was always lively. Every time we went somewhere together, he would come up with all sorts of topics to amuse Willow, from embarrassing childhood stories to the latest gossip from their old residential compound. The two of them would go back and forth effortlessly, always discussing things I could never quite insert myself into. But today, no matter how hard Makoto tried to start a conversation, Willow responded only faintly. The 30-minute drive ended in 15. After we got out, Willow shut the car door harder than usual. I continued saying goodbye to Anna in an animated tone. Willow said coldly, "Can't bear to part with her. Why don't you just invite Anna over to our place?" I glanced at her inexplicably and chose not to respond. Chapter 4. Willow walked into the house with a dark expression on her face. I had just changed my shoes and stepped out of the entryway when I saw her sitting on the living room sofa, arms crossed, her face stretched tight with anger. She demanded, "Who is that woman to you?" Willow bit down hard on her lower lip and hurled her bag onto the floor. I looked at her and replied calmly, "She's a good buddy of mine." She burst out, "A girl in her early 20s is your buddy? George, you took her with you on this business trip, didn't you?" 4 days straight. You were staying with some young girl. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. Willow kicked the suitcase hard. I felt my temper flare too. I pulled the suitcase open and, seeing her furious state, shot back sarcastically. On a business trip, your partner is either a man or a woman. She's easygoing and we get along well. What's wrong with treating her like one of the guys? She shrieked. Of course there's something wrong. She's a woman. Since when does a woman count as one of the guys? What? You can have best male friends, but I can't have a female bro. That single sentence left her speechless. I had never seen so many vivid expressions on Willow's face before. Shock, regret, frustration. Finally, she almost forced the words out through clenched teeth. She said, "How is that the same? Makoto is different. We grew up together. If anything were going to happen, it would have happened long ago." I cut her off directly and said firmly, "Anna and I are different too. Can't we give each other a little trust?" Chapter 5. Willow had hit a wall. For several days in a row, she gave me the silent treatment. We drifted along in that lukewarm tension for a few days. Then her parents invited us over for dinner. At the table, my father-in-law and mother-in-law could clearly sense something was off between us. They subtly pressed Willow. "Willow, George bought a house here for you. You're not a child anymore. Learn to be sensible. Don't keep making a fuss for no reason." Willow and I had been college classmates. According to my original plan, I was supposed to return to my hometown after graduation. But with just one sentence, she didn't want to marry far away from home. I resolutely chose to buy a house here instead. Hearing her father's words, Willow's expression softened. Before we left, she took my hand on her own initiative. She said, "Hubby, I'm sore." Before she could finish, someone suddenly wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Hey, sis, you finally came back. Let's hang out together." It was Makoto. Once again, he made physical contact with Willow without the slightest hesitation. But this time, unlike before, Willow didn't return his gesture with a bright smile. Instead, she pushed his hand away and glanced at me awkwardly. Makoto noticed me too. He clicked his tongue and shook his head. "Oh, it's George." As he spoke, he deliberately stepped back and raised both hands, making a show of keeping his distance. Looking up, I saw a group of people following in behind him. A fashionably dressed girl said, "Willow, you're back," and didn't even say hi in the group chat. "If Makoto hadn't mentioned he saw you, we wouldn't have known." Another guy chimed in. "Exactly. It's rare that everyone's here. Let's hang out." The whole group began egging her on. There was obvious temptation on Willow's face, but unlike before, she didn't immediately agree. Instead, she looked at me, silently asking for my opinion. Everyone noticed. Even though we were married, this group of theirs had always kept a certain distance from me. For one, I wasn't part of their circle. For another, with me around, they probably couldn't fully relax. "How about we all go hang out?" Willow asked cautiously, almost at the same time. I sensed the tension in the air. Makoto's reaction was even more obvious. His expression grew impatient, and he kept signaling to the others with his eyes. The entire little clique was waiting for my answer. They didn't want me to go, but they wanted Willow to. As they wished, I patted Willow lightly on the shoulder. My voice was calm and steady. "Sure, just be safe. Don't stay out too late. I'll drive home first." No one spoke. The atmosphere turned strangely silent. After a long moment, Willow seemed torn. It was as if she had let out a breath of relief, yet felt guilty at the same time. "Hubby, I'll come back early," she said seriously, as if making a promise. I simply smiled and walked straight out of the courtyard. As I turned my back, I heard someone say, "Willow, did your husband change or something? He's actually okay with you hanging out with us now." Chapter 6. 11 at night. Willow still hadn't come home. I didn't ask, because I had just made plans with Anna, along with a few other friends. We went to the liveliest bar in town. The pounding music hammered against our eardrums, bringing with it a reckless sense of forgetting everything. Our group chose a spacious booth, and before long, we were fully immersed in the atmosphere. After several rounds of drinks, the woman sitting beside me suddenly pointed excitedly toward a spot across the room. "Wow, that table's playing something wild over there." Everyone immediately perked up and turned to look. I did too, and at a glance, familiar faces. The table not far away was Willow's childhood clique from the residential compound. 7 men, 2 women. The table was piled high with empty bottles. Willow sat in the corner. From the distance, I couldn't see her expression clearly, but judging by her movements, she was looking down at her phone. Beside her, the girl from earlier was holding a bottle. In one bold motion, she straddled Makoto's lap, wrapped her arms around his neck, and kissed him. No one found it strange. In fact, they stood up and cheered. Someone said, "Looks like they're playing King's game, mouth-to-mouth feeding drinks." Another person added, "That girl's insane. Just now she was told to take off her bra, and she pulled it right out and hung it around someone's neck without hesitation." That confidence, unmatched. Soon, it was Makoto's turn. He took Willow's phone from her hand, then lifted her chin and leaned down toward her. Everyone was laughing. I wasn't, because I saw it clearly. Amid all the cheering and noise, Willow slowly closed her eyes, parted her lips, and responded, "Disgusting." Chapter 7. Makoto didn't get the chance to feed her the drink, because I walked over and slapped each of them across the face. The scene turned ugly instantly. The members of their little clique hurried to smooth things over, saying it was just a game. Makoto, clutching his face, lowered his head and apologized in a submissive tone, claiming it was only part of the game. As for me, without expression, I picked up a bottle and poured it straight over his head. Then I turned and left. Before walking away, I looked at Willow with a smile and said, "If you enjoy playing so much, wait until after we're divorced. Then you can play all you want." I meant it, because I was truly exhausted, but Willow refused to accept it. She chased me home, her voice trembling. "Hubby, we were really just playing a game. Makoto and I are good friends. I've never treated him as a man." "Hubby, you already slapped me just now." "Then I promise, I won't mess around with them like that anymore." Later, irritation crept into her voice. "George, I didn't say anything about you bringing so many women to the bar either." In the end, she grabbed her hair and screamed at me hysterically. By then, I had already packed my suitcase. There was still quite a lot left. I couldn't take everything at once, but at that moment, I didn't want to spend even a second longer in the same space with her. "Move," I said. I frowned at her outstretched arms. My gaze lifted, yet my voice was unexpectedly calm. How should I put it? I didn't want to hit her. I didn't want to yell at her. It just felt pointless, as if everything had lost its meaning. Willow seemed startled by my expression. Her body trembled slightly. Her face, flushed red from alcohol, turned pale beneath the color. Yet she still instinctively shouted at me, "George, do you have to be so serious about this?" I shrugged. "So, Willow, can Anna and I play like that too?" Willow froze. I let out a short laugh and stepped closer. "You can't even handle us sitting in the back seat together on a business trip. You gave me the cold shoulder for days over that. So how do you even have the nerve to say this?" The next second, however, Willow blurted out, "How can that be the same? I'm a woman. Of course I know what I'm doing. Makoto and I are pure friends. We just go shopping, eat together, talk about makeup. But you men, do you think I don't know what you're like? When men look for women, isn't it just to sleep with them?" Hearing her words, I felt nothing but stupidity and absurdity. Even reasoning with her felt like an insult to my own intelligence. I rubbed my temples and sighed. "If you put it that way, then your male friend, isn't he a man? If I make Anna my bestie, how is that any different from Makoto making you his? When he looks for you, is it to sleep with you too? So what you're saying is, you've always known what Makoto wants, and you still chose to indulge in it? Then you really are that shameless." Willow was rendered speechless, as if the last fig leaf had been ripped away. Her face shifted between pale and flushed. She avoided my gaze instinctively. I had hit the truth. I couldn't help but laugh. "Anna, I asked her to come on purpose, just to make you jealous." Willow's eyes snapped back to mine, a flicker of surprise, almost relief, crossing her face. Then I continued. "At first, I thought you just didn't understand proper boundaries between men and women. I wanted you to experience it from my perspective, but I was wrong. It's not that you don't understand. It's that deep down, you don't value yourself." I pushed her aside, caught off guard. Willow stumbled and fell to the floor. I didn't even look at her. "Willow," I said, "let's get divorced. Don't make me tear everything apart." Chapter 8. Willow refused to agree to the divorce. She even brought my parents into it. Willow had always maintained a very good image in front of them. She was beautiful, well-educated, and came from an intellectual family. Ever since graduation, she had stayed by my side. In their eyes, she was virtuous and considerate, so they sided with Willow and tried to persuade me. But after only a few days, the tide turned, because Willow became infamous. Someone had filmed what happened at the bar and uploaded the video online. Overnight, the entire internet knew that Willow, a married woman, had been feeding Makoto alcohol mouth-to-mouth and had been slapped by me in public. Public opinion was overwhelmingly one-sided. Almost everyone was condemning Makoto and Willow. One comment read, "Shameless. Look at her, she even opened her mouth on her own." Another said, "So economical." One sip of alcohol passed through 3 people and none of it even made it into their stomachs. Someone else commented, 7 guys and 2 girls. Late at night, what is this? A public bus? Disgusting. Aren't they afraid of catching something? At first, Makoto and Willow argued back online, saying netizens had dirty minds and saw everything through a filthy lens. They insisted theirs was simply pure friendship between childhood friends of opposite sexes. But the internet wasn't convinced. People began digging into their information and various social media accounts. The more they dug, the more they found. Photos of Willow wearing Makoto's clothes, sharing the same milk tea, eating the same ice cream. The most outrageous was when Makoto had taken artistic photos of Willow. All of it had been documented in Makoto's daily posts, the captions dripping with pride between the lines. Makoto became famous. Willow became famous. Even the people from that residential compound became famous. Those who had partners broke up. Those who were single lost any remaining prospects. Influencer accounts mockingly dubbed them Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Netizens joked that this was the worst defamation Snow White had ever suffered. Watching it all unfold, I couldn't deny. A small part of me felt satisfied. Makoto had been like a tumor in my relationship with Willow, growing bigger and bigger. I tried to cut it out, but Willow never took it seriously. Now the tumor had backfired, and I had already withdrawn. After a few days at the top of trending lists, the controversy was eventually suppressed. Some of the people in that compound were wealthy and well-connected local heirs with powerful networks. Almost overnight, the negative posts were wiped clean. Makoto's accounts were completely cleared. A few days later, Willow's parents came to see me. They begged me to visit Willow. The night before, she had tried to end her life by cutting her wrists. By the time she was discovered and rushed to the hospital, she was already in a deep coma. It took an entire night of emergency treatment to save her life. Now she lay in a hospital bed, murmuring my name over and over. Willow's father said, "I know Willow was wrong, but for the sake of the time you spent as husband and wife, please go see her once. George, consider it a favor to us as her parents." I went to the hospital. Willow had lost a lot of weight. The loose hospital gown hung emptily over her frame. Her face was pale, almost translucent. Only when she saw me did a faint glimmer of light return to her otherwise lifeless expression. I walked over and stopped her from struggling to sit up. "When are you being discharged?" I asked. Her eyes brightened slightly. With difficulty, she said, "Next week." "Hubby, does that mean you're willing to forgive me?" "I promise, just give me one more chance. I swear I'll never act like that again. I'll definitely keep my distance from Makoto." I cut her off. "When you're discharged, we'll finalize the divorce." I shattered her illusion. I watched her features twist in pain. Her reddened eyes gradually filled with tears, which streamed down her cheeks. Her voice trembled as if stuffed with cotton. "Hubby, I didn't cheat. You know that. Makoto doesn't even like women. It was all just fooling around. If you don't like it, I promise I'll cut ties with them completely. Hubby, I'm begging you, please don't leave me." When she saw I remained unmoved, Willow slid off the bed and knelt in front of me, crying. In the process, she knocked over the 4-stand. It crashed to the floor, tubing scattering everywhere. Even the catheter shifted, slicing across the back of her hand. Blood splattered. It was a miserable sight. Chapter 9. In the end, I agreed to give Willow one last chance. As long as she had absolutely no contact with Makoto for 1 month, I would no longer consider divorce. Both sets of parents stood witness. Her eyes lit up instantly, and she agreed on the spot. She seemed to think my condition was something effortlessly simple for her. Both families let out a sigh of relief, but only I knew. For her, this was a losing bet from the start. Chapter 10. Willow blocked Makoto. She truly cut off contact. She left the group chat, unfollowed every account, and even showed me daily screenshots of her phone to prove that her pages were completely clean. When Anna heard about it, she was surprised. Narrowing her eyes, she asked, "George, you're not getting back together with your ex-wife, are you?" She leaned in, gossiping. Anna knew about the problems between Willow and me. During my business trip, she had carefully analyzed everything and suggested a strategy. Fight fire with fire. Let Willow experience what it felt like to have a bestie of the opposite sex. The effect had been obvious, but I had already seen this woman clearly. Our problem had never been Makoto. Seeing the concern in Anna's expression, I replied calmly, "The outcome of divorce won't change. Even if the divorce didn't go through, reconciliation was no longer possible, because last month, I was diagnosed with a malignant disease. The doctor told me my condition couldn't be delayed any longer. I hadn't told Willow. I hadn't told my parents either. The success rate of the surgery was less than 50%. Why burden my parents with unnecessary fear? So if I didn't make it off the operating table, then there really would be no need to consider divorce anymore. After seeing my parents off, I scheduled the surgery. The date I chose happened to be Makoto's birthday. Why did I know? Because every year on Makoto's birthday, everyone from the compound had to show up, rain or shine. I chose that day on purpose, not out of rivalry. I simply didn't want Willow disturbing me that day. Anna drove me to the hospital. On the way, she cried harder than I did. She said, "George, you can't abandon your teammate and run off. I don't know anyone here. You have to take responsibility for me." Okay. Anna had once had a first love she cared about deeply. He died of illness at 20. Ever since then, she had hidden behind a carefree facade. 4 years, she had been alone. Even at the entrance to the operating room, she was still sobbing uncontrollably. As for me, I remained calm. Anna, I said. You are you first. You're not meant to become someone's monument. Anna fell silent. She looked at me with complicated emotions and nodded softly. I tugged at the corner of my lips. I didn't even need a mirror to know how bleak my expression must have been. Even after preparing myself mentally, the moment I turned around, my eyes still reddened. Chapter 11. After the anesthesia took effect, I knew nothing. So I had no idea that I went through a desperate race between life and death. The patient is bleeding heavily. We can't stop it. Where are the family members? We need a signature immediately. When the doctor rushed out of the operating room, Anna was stunned. The consent form was shoved into her hands, but she had no way to prove she was related to me. She pleaded, "Can you leave it blank for now? His parents aren't local. His wife is busy." The doctor looked anxious. "Are you kidding me? Hospital regulations. Call his wife right now. The patient is in critical condition." Anna snapped back to reality and began frantically calling Willow. 1 call, 2, 3, 13, 33, 53. No answer. By the 53rd call, the phone was directly hung up. Anna went from anxious, to panicked, to completely breaking down. "Answer the phone. Willow, your husband is about to die. How can you have the nerve to go meet your lover?" She screamed hysterically in the hospital corridor. Medical staff and patients gathered around, watching the scene. Many were moved. They cursed the unfaithful wife. They tried to help. Then someone said, "If you can't reach her, try reaching someone who can reach her." It was like a sudden awakening. Using my phone, Anna dialed another number. Chapter 12. Willow arrived 15 minutes later. Behind her were her father and mother. When she came, her clothes were disheveled. The neckline of her dress was loose, and there was cream from a cake smeared across her hair and clothes. She looked utterly frantic. All of that, I only learned after waking up, when Anna told me. Her eyes were still red as she said, "Thank goodness they got you in time and the surgery went smoothly. Otherwise, I really would have lost you." Anna called it luck. I merely asked calmly, "Is Willow still kneeling outside?" This time, Willow was kneeling at the entrance to my hospital room. No one spoke up for her. Her parents knew they were in the wrong. After the surgery, they comforted me for a long time. Before leaving, Willow's father patted my shoulder. His voice was hoarse. "George, all these years, how have you endured it? My daughter, she's beyond saving. If you want a divorce, we won't try to persuade you anymore. We'll handle it however you wish." Coming back to the present, I met Anna's complicated gaze and said calmly, "Help me out." Anna wanted to stop me, but she couldn't win against my insistence. She placed me in a wheelchair and pushed me toward the door. In the hospital corridor, Willow was still kneeling. She was still wearing the wrinkled formal dress from earlier that day. One side of her face was swollen. Anna had slapped her. In front of everyone, Willow hadn't fought back. And now, despite the people constantly passing by, Willow, who had always hated being stared at, had not moved an inch. When she saw me, her face filled with pain and sorrow. But before she could speak, I had already thrown a document in front of her. "You lost." 3 simple words. All the color drained from Willow's face. The corridor was noisy with whispers from onlookers, but none of it drowned out her broken sobs. She didn't even look at the paper on the ground. She cried toward me. "You didn't tell me you were sick or having surgery. You didn't want me to worry. Right, but I. The more she spoke, the more distraught she became. Finally, she slapped herself hard across the face. I rolled my eyes. "You're overthinking it. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd make things worse for me." My voice was weak. I leaned against the wall and said plainly, "And I knew very well, you wouldn't have come today anyway." Even though the condition had been simple, just 1 month without contacting Makoto. Such a simple thing, but Willow couldn't do it. Pressing her lips together, she said, "When we were in elementary school, Makoto saved my life. So I promised him we would always spend our birthdays together." When Willow was in 3rd grade, she ran away from home. By sheer coincidence, she hid inside a shipping container for the night. The result? When she woke up the next day, she was already thousands of meters in the air, the container suspended and swaying. Fortunately, Makoto, who had secretly followed her, discovered it in time and saved her. From that day on, Willow became dependent on him. They were inseparable, but wrong was wrong. No matter how many reasons there were, I had no obligation to understand the emotional logic behind them. Chapter 13. Willow agreed to the divorce. All the paperwork was completed. Soon, the 1-month cooling-off period passed. When we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, her expression looked like someone attending a funeral. She still refused to give up. She begged me for one more chance. She said she wanted to atone. She said she loved me. She cried in front of me again and again. From pleading at first, to desperate, relentless clinging in the end. In the struggle, neither of us noticed that we had stepped onto the road, nor did we notice a familiar Maybach driving straight toward me. Bang. It all happened too fast. By the time I reacted, Willow had already been sent flying in front of me. like a slow-motion freeze frame in a film. Before she was thrown into the air, the last words she said to me were, "I'm sorry." In that instant, my heart stopped. Only when her body hit the ground did my mind catch up. I rushed forward. At that moment, Makoto burst out from the driver's seat. When he saw that the one struck was Willow, he roared like a madman. He screamed for me to die and lunged at me with a knife in his hand. But within seconds, patrolling police officers forced him down onto the hood of the car and wrested the knife away. He shouted, "George, fuck you. Why aren't you the one who's dead? If it weren't for you, Willow would never have cut ties with me. It's all because of you, bastard. I'm gonna fucking kill you." Makoto had lost his mind, because on the day of my surgery, my father-in-law and mother-in-law had found Willow at Makoto Ito's residence with that entire compound clique. They were furious and, together with several other families, moved to suppress the Ito family. To quell public outrage, the Ito family had no choice but to sacrifice Makoto, preparing to send him abroad and forbidding him from ever returning. The young heirs who once treated him like an elder brother cut him off immediately the moment their own interests were threatened. For Makoto, it was his darkest hour, and in his mind, the root cause of everything was me. If I were dead, everything could return to the way it was. Listening to him, I felt nothing but absurdity. Chapter 14. Willow survived, but she was left half paralyzed, and the child was lost. Makoto was not sentenced to death. Instead, he was convicted of intentional assault and given life imprisonment. I heard that in prison, for reasons unknown, one of his legs was broken. After Willow's accident, many people came looking for me. Her parents, her friends, my parents. Her parents begged me not to abandon Willow at a time like this. For the sake of the years we had spent as husband and wife, her friends hoped that since she had become like this because of me, I would stay and take care of her. My parents urged me to return to my hometown as soon as possible, to stop entangling myself in unnecessary trouble. In the end, I went to see Willow. The once proud woman now lay in a hospital bed, needing assistance for everything, even the most basic necessities. She didn't speak. She only looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. I thanked her. After all, she had saved my life. She said, "I know. I don't have the right to ask you to stay." Willow choked on her words. Her voice was hoarse and heavy with sorrow. "Everything now is my own doing. This is my punishment." I waved my hand lightly. "It's not that extreme. The doctors didn't give you a death sentence. If you cooperate with treatment, you still have a chance to stand again." At that, Willow's eyes lit up with emotion. She looked at me with hope, nervous, cautious. "So you're willing to?" I cut her off. "I've already made arrangements to return to my hometown. You know that if you hadn't said you didn't want to marry far away, I would have developed my career back home after graduation." My tone was steady and unhurried. In that instant, I watched Willow's face dim, like a sunflower stripped of sunlight. Her eyes reddened. Her smile was bitter and self-mocking. "I knew it," she said softly. "Trash like me deserves to rot in the mud for the rest of my life." "Willow," I said, "we each have our own lives. You can no longer affect me, and you shouldn't live defined by me either." I cut off her self-loathing. Perhaps my gaze was too sharp, piercing straight through her. The hospital room fell silent enough to hear a pin drop. Sunlight filtered through the window and fell across my body, as if draping me in a thin layer of gold. Chapter 15. I returned to my hometown. From time to time, I still heard news from South City. It took Willow 2 years to stand up again, but because her condition had delayed her work for too long, she was eventually dismissed from her job. Another new year arrived. Anna sent me a message. "Happy New Year." When I received it, I was helping my parents make dumplings. I wiped the flour from my hands and looked at the selfie she had sent, sitting alone on her balcony. I couldn't help teasing her. "Spending New Year's alone again? If it's really that bad, come to my parents' place. We can take you in for a few days. Soon," she replied. "No thanks." My husband would get upset. She was referring to her first love, who had passed away many years ago. I raised an eyebrow and typed back, "After all these years, still staying true to your original heart?" She replied, "Of course, even good buddy need boundaries." I smiled. Then I looked up, out the window. It was snowing. The view was beautiful.